without further ado, back from her honeymoon, joining us live from the White House North Lawn. It's time for Behind the Fence with Monica Paige.
Live from the North Lawn of the White House, it's Beyond the Fence with Monica Paige.
Monica, how are you?
How's it going, Chris? Thanks so much for having me. Am I tan? We just got back from Costa Rica.
Oh, man. I want to talk to you about what's been happening at the White House this week, but I think that's secondary. How was your wedding and how was your honeymoon?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was beautiful. It was such a beautiful day too, because the days leading up to the wedding was rainy, and then apparently we had rain here in DC for the entire week that I was in Costa Rica. So we just missed out on everything. Everything worked out perfectly, thank goodness.
That's awesome. I saw the pictures.
Yeah.
I was snooping on the Instagram and on the Twitter. You looked awesome. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks. Thank you so much.
And I saw that you got a gift that is probably going to be framed and hung in the home. Tell me about this gift that you received.
It's already in the frame.
Is
Chris.
it? I knew it. I would have done it too. I'm not knocking it.
Yeah, I mean, we came back about a day or two later. I checked the mailbox and there was a big yellow envelope from the White House. And I was like, what the hell could this be? So I opened it and I said, there's no way that President Trump signed. It's not auto pen. It's an actual signature in Sharpie. Yeah, it's the authentic. It's no auto pen here. So it was just a beautiful letter and saying that we represent the best of our nation and may God always be in the center of your marriage. And it was just such a beautiful letter and so thoughtful too. But yeah, definitely going to be in the frame for years to come. Maybe a fireproof frame. God forbid something happens to
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Save the note from Trump. Forget the family photos. Save the note from Trump.
Yes.
So now you're back at the White House, and you're not skipping a beat. You got craziness happening all week long. Let's start with the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa. What was the mood of the White House once they turned those lights down and wheeled in the TV?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the TVs kind of getting wheeled into the Oval Office just minutes before the arrival of Cyril Ramaphosa, and we were questioning what that could even be for because we had never seen that before. But this was definitely the most awkward meeting aside from Ukrainian President Zelensky's meeting with President Trump. It was interesting. I mean, many people are calling this kind of like a soft ambush with this South African president, kind of saying, "Hey, this is what's been going on in your region. You're going to say you don't know what I'm talking about? Okay, I'm going to bring out the articles. I'm going to bring out the receipts, and we're going to roll the footage." And he kind of sat there, he said, "Oh, I denounced this. I don't like any of this. This is happening, but I don't agree with what's happening." But these are South African government officials chanting these, death to the white farmer, and there's crosses on farmland marking the deaths of these white farmers. So to say that you don't know or you weren't aware, it's kind of makes you question, are you really telling the truth here?
Right.
Especially when you're in the president's house, sitting face to face with him. I mean, not much gets by that man. So it was kind of an awkward meeting. The South African president left, and I'm assuming that all was good. But to see some of those reporters also trying to deflect in some of those questions, they just showed the video, and NBC's Peter Alexander is saying, "Oh, what about that plane that the Qatari government gifted you? What does that have to do with anything?" So very interesting dynamic between the media, the South African president, and the president himself there. But I'm assuming more is to come when it comes to how South Africa goes moving forward as far as this issue and as far as trade as well.
Yeah, and the media didn't stop either. I mean, yesterday in the White House press briefing, you had fake news NBC versus Carolyn Levitt when it came to the crosses that marked the deaths of the white farmers in South Africa. What was the vibe like in the room when those two started going back and forth?
It kind of feels like you're in the Twilight Zone, Chris, because when you're hearing from the NBC reporter, she's clearly living in a totally different reality than everybody else. I mean, we saw firsthand the articles, the footage, the images that also came from Reuters and AP. So to sit there and say, "Oh, this isn't accurate information. There's no base. These are baseless claims." It's kind of makes you wonder, what kind of world are they living in? Are they trying to actually give you the wrong information, or do they actually not believe the own information that is their reality? Why are you continuing to deny reality? And that's the same kind of theme that we saw in the previous administration. Prices are coming down. The border is closed. This isn't happening. So clearly this reporter is still living in those times. But I'm glad the American people can see right through that.
Yeah, everybody sees right through it. But it's crazy that the media continues to push this as unsubstantiated claims. It's like we had a video and news articles that you're welcome to look at.
especially from AP and Reuters too. I mean, are those fake too? Like, where are you getting your information? A simple Google search will show that these claims aren't unsubstantiated. It's clearly happening. You've talked to somebody in South Africa who's been witnessing this firsthand. Even Elon Musk. Elon Musk was in the room when the South African president was there, South African born, by the way.
Yep.
And he was saying, hey, he's been a staunch critic of Cyril Ramaphosa. So he knows firsthand as well. This is what's actually happening.
Yeah, he was staring daggers through Cyril Ramaphosa too. It was a bit uncomfortable to watch, but I enjoyed every minute of it at the exact same time. Were you at the Maha Commission event yesterday?
I was among some of the Maha, doctors, the holistic medicine kind of experts here on the White House grounds who were in that event. And they were saying, this is groundbreaking information that this commission report has found. I mean, there have been chemicals in the food for decades. And what this report that has really been finding and digging into are childhood chronic diseases. Why are our children experiencing all of these issues years down the road, or even sometimes after birth, after certain kinds of vaccines as well?
Yep.
Diabetes, obesity, autoimmune issues, behavioral issues, all of these are serious issues that I'm so glad this administration is finally addressing. I mean, according to reports, there's 70% of food consumed by children are ultra processed, and ultra processed foods are some of the worst foods you could ever consume. Your meats, your ultra processed and overly, cleansed with pesticides and on the farms. All that food is getting into our children's systems, causing all of these problems years down the line. 40% of nearly 73 million kids have at least one chronic health problem. And I think that this is finally good that we are addressing this and making headways into possibly preventing this down the line.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to seeing what they come up with in 60 to 100 days as far as what can fix that. Where are we at on the big, beautiful bill? I know it's passed the House. It's on to the Senate. What are you hearing on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, 215 to 214, finally getting this big, beautiful bill passed. I know President Trump has been meeting with GOP lawmakers this entire past week, trying to get this bill passed, where many people are very excited about this passage. It's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, tax reliefs for seniors, $175 billion towards border security and the border wall, reinstating President Trump's 2017 tax cuts. And also what I find is interesting is that it's cutting funding from these nonprofit clinics that promote family planning care and promote medical care, but also perform abortions as well, and have taken about $1 million in taxpayer funds. Now, without naming names, that's pretty much describing clinics like Planned Parenthood, for example, who have taken $800 million in taxpayer funding from 2023 to 2024 and carried out more than 400,000 abortions in that time period as well. So, long story short, Planned Parenthood and clinics like those are going to be defunded moving forward. So that's always a sign of hope too.
And the left always hides everything in the language, right? Oh, it's family planning, but in reality, you're planning not to have a family and figuring that out. And no,
exactly.
my tax dollars shouldn't be going to that. I did hear you talking to Tom Homan the other day about the money for the border inside that big, beautiful bill. What's Tom feeling about that kind of money coming his way?
You can kind of feel that he's relieved and thrilled all at the same time. I mean, we needed more border wall construction, because not only in the previous administration did Joe Biden halt border wall construction, but also we're selling excess parts of the border wall for basically pennies on the dollar. So now that we get this going back up again, it's also not only the wall, but the technology needed at the southern border to help, prevent these gotaways, to help ICE agents do their job, to help keep these illegal aliens in the detention centers. So that's going to be more beds. I know Tom Homan wanted about 100,000 more beds. They only have 50,000 at the moment. So this is going to help really keep them where they need to be in order to go through the process and the motions to either get deported or to make their way into the country the legal way. So we know that Tom Homan is excited about this passage, and a lot of people should be, especially if you're a border state. But of course, as we know, every state has become a border state. I also want to mention some misinformation going on about the BBB, and that's Medicaid cutting, because there are a lot of people that are saying, hey, Medicaid's going to be cut, but President Trump has made it clear we're not touching it. It's only going to be 3 words: cutting waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicare system. And states like California and New York have been abusing the Medicaid system for years. Illegal aliens, freeloaders, basically taking taxpayer dollars and abusing it. So to see President Trump saying, hey, we're not touching Medicaid, but we're going to cut all of the crap that's been happening with Medicaid and people taking advantage of the system, we're finally cracking down on that, and people can trust that their taxpayer dollars are going to be used for good and not being taken advantage of.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I don't think that we should be paying for illegal aliens or able-bodied Americans that can work.
Yeah.
You should get out there and do it. There used to be a time in this country where people didn't want a handout. It was looked upon as like a negative thing, and now that seems to just have gone by the wayside. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah,
realistic that the big beautiful bill gets through the Senate?
I think so. I think it might be a little bit of a hurdle, but I do have hope that this could definitely get passed. Believe there's a July 4th deadline for that, so we'll definitely be keeping our eyes open for something like that to happen in the next coming weeks.
What are you hearing about Republicans who are saying that there's not enough cuts inside the big beautiful bill?
Well, Republicans, you can't always get what you want. You know what I mean? You got to do the best you can and just accept what President Trump is trying to push through. This is President Trump endorsed. Get in line. I know President Trump has really been trying to whip some of these Republicans into shape, changing those nay votes to yay votes. So hopefully he can kind of do the same for the Senate as well. But I don't believe that there will be a lot of issues when it comes to something like this. But like we said, July 4th, all eyes will be on that day. I know, however, the Senate works. I'm sure it's going to be a last minute thing, as these things always are. But hopefully it comes sooner than later.
Yeah, we're talking with Maha Paige. She is the White House reporter for Turning Point USA and Frontlines. She's one of the best. Just got married. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
I saw that while you were on your honeymoon, the Take It Down Act got signed into law, and that was pretty exciting. This is a story that you said wasn't being paid enough attention to. So I saw it, and I was like, man, that's a good wedding gift for Monica. What are your thoughts on the Take It Down Act?
Yeah, totally monumental. I actually got to speak one-on-one with Elliston Berry, who was the victim and kind of the brains behind this great bill, where she, at 14 years old, was a victim of a classmate who took a photo of her, ran it through an AI app that removed her clothes and sent it around via Snapchat to a bunch of other classmates. And when she brought it to the school's attention, the school really didn't do anything about it, which I find to be so surprising and really disheartening and discouraging. So she said, you know what, I'm going to take it to the next level. I'm going to go to my senator, Ted Cruz. And to which Ted Cruz took this bill, or took the situation, and put it on the president's desk and said, we have to do something about this. Because honestly, Chris, AI is only going to get more and more advanced over the years. And, who knows what AI will be capable of. So this is going to say, hey, if you are an online platform or perpetrator, you will be fined, perhaps jailed, depending on if the victim is a minor or an adult. And you have 48 hours to take it down. Once this is brought to your attention, if you don't, you're going to be, put into prison, jail time, fines, whatever the penalties may be for that. But definitely a sign of hope moving forward, especially for our young kids that are always on social media. And, and you never know what could happen nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. Again, we're talking with Maha Paige. There is an executive order that's going to be signed today, if I recall correctly. What do you know about that?
Yeah, so this is going to be, according to CNBC, something that involves nuclear constructions and speeding up the construction of nuclear reactors and securing these key materials in these nuclear constructions. So this executive order actually could instate the Defense Production Act to kind of declare a national emergency when it comes to our energy, because we have been relying or depending on countries like Russia and China for enriched uranium, nuclear fuel processing systems for inputs, reactors, even taking a look at specific sites where we could perhaps build more nuclear reactors and nuclear energy sites. So this, there will definitely be more to come. That's coming around 3 p.m. Eastern time, or 1 p.m. Eastern time, around that time, if the president is not having too much on his schedule today. But we can definitely expect that this afternoon to be signed in. And we'll see what else this includes, because I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg as far as our energy.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like Trump keeps his schedule pretty packed. And I was watching, I was watching you on Twitter. It's a little bit different than the Biden White House, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, I was going down memory lane, Chris, where I was covering the Biden White House, and I was saying, I can't believe a random Tuesday, April 2nd, the White House called a lid at 10:20 a.m. It was crazy. And to see really the media here at the White House not really being able to keep up with what the president's doing, is something always happening. It's a night and day difference. And obviously this is the daytime, and the previous administration was the nighttime. But that was the reality. I mean, you had the president leaving for vacations, week-long vacations, 577 days out of more than 1,400 days in office where he took vacations. And
Crazy.
That's about 39% of his presidency spent just outside in Delaware somewhere on Rehoboth Beach. But this is definitely very refreshing to see, and to see some actual change and progress happening behind those White House doors.
Yeah, and Biden's cognitive decline has been a big topic of conversation, obviously with the cancer diagnosis as well. Are members of the media, are they really what they're putting out there? Like, we had no idea. Nobody told us. The White House is covering up. Or behind the scenes, are those leftist propagandists just open and like, yeah, we all knew?
Part of them, like Jake Tapper, says, oh, yeah, we knew about this, but we just couldn't believe it was happening there. Like, again, baseless claims that Joe Biden was facing a cognitive decline. But if you're an average American person or somebody who has had a family member going through a cognitive decline, you can see all the signs were right there this entire time. And what's interesting is that I don't know how these mainstream media or legacy media members will come back from this crisis, because this is clearly a misinformation crisis. This was clearly a cover-up scheme from some of these reporters, and it's a credibility crisis as well. How do you report on anything anymore when you just blatantly lied to the American people, telling them not to believe their own eyes? Where do you go from here? So I think now, especially now, we're going to see basically what I think will be a tectonic shift in media consumption. They'll stray from these outlets like NBC, CNN that hid this for years, and start moving towards outlets like ours, where we've been saying this for years and reporting on this and covering it and being honest about to the American people. This is a little strange. We should be encouraging our viewers to be questioning everything. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I do too. Monica Paige, she's the White House reporter for Turning Point USA and Frontlines. Anything we missed? We got about 30 seconds left. Is there anything that you wanted to make sure that we got on the air to the American people?
Gas prices are at a 4-year low this Memorial Day weekend. They're on average $3.17. Some areas you're seeing $3.03. You can thank President Trump for your low gas prices this Memorial Day weekend.
Is the White House doing anything special for Memorial Day?
Yes, there's a wreath-laying ceremony, I believe, this weekend where President Trump will be participating at Arlington National Cemetery, and he's also delivering military graduation remarks at West Point tomorrow afternoon. So, President, even though it is technically a holiday weekend, he's still very busy and honoring our troops and service members as well.
I love it, and he's not calling a lid at 10 a.m.
No, absolutely not. And I remember Kamala Harris. Remember when she said, "Enjoy the long weekend"?
Yep.
We're not going to be hearing that from President Trump this weekend.
No, we will not. Monica, where can we keep up with you online?
Thanks so much, Chris. You can find me on X at Monica Paige TV and on Instagram at Monica Paige TV as well. Always a pleasure to join you guys.
Hey, likewise. I always appreciate the time. Congratulations again on the wedding. You looked fantastic.
Thank you.
It was awesome to see those pictures online. Congratulations. And we'll talk to you next week. Monica Paige on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.